The Newsboys are suing the Roys Report. I'm Julie Roys, founder of the Roys Report, which is both the name of this podcast and our independent online news site. And last night, I learned online that the Newsboys filed a lawsuit in Tennessee District Court against the Roys Report, me and our reporter, Jessica Morris. I still haven't been served, but I saw the post on the Newsboys Instagram yesterday announcing the lawsuit. My phone also started blowing up as people began texting and instant messaging me. And thank you so much for those of you who reached out, said you're praying for us and you support us. Those messages mean an awful lot. So thank you so much. But it's not just us who are being sued. The once mega popular band is also suing more than 24 companies and individuals in contemporary Christian music, including Mercy Me and Bart Millard. According to the lawsuit, the Roys Report's groundbreaking reporting on alleged sexual abuse by former Newsboys frontman Michael Tait was part of a vast conspiracy to defame the band and steal business. If you followed our reporting, you know that Jessica Morris was the reporter who broke this huge story for us. Over a 2.5-year period, Jessica interviewed more than 50 sources. These included multiple men and women who alleged they were assaulted by people associated with the Newsboys. These sources also claimed officials in the Newsboys organization knew about the misconduct, but covered it up. However, the lawsuit claims that our publication of, quote, defamatory articles destroyed the ministries of Wes Campbell and the 4 musicians comprising the Newsboys. If you're not aware, Wes Campbell is the owner of the Newsboys. So since this has become a legal matter, I need to be careful about what I say, but I will note that the threat of this kind of ungodly retaliation is precisely why the truth about Michael Tait and the Newsboys remain buried for so long. And joining me today to talk about some of that is our reporter, Jessica Morris. So Jessica, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you join me.
Oh, thank you for having me today. I wish it was under better circumstances, but I'm still glad to be here with you.
Yeah, well, I do too. But I'm glad that you could join us kind of on last minute notice. And I know you are still based in Australia. And so this is kind of, what is it? Early morning for you right now?
Yeah, it's about 7:30 in the morning, but like you, my phone just blew up. I think for the last 12 to 24 hours, I haven't been asleep overnight. I've had phone calls and texts all night. So I completely understand. And I also really appreciate the support that we've received from so many people in the music industry.
Yeah, and you are hearing from a number of people. I'm hearing mostly from friends and other reporters who really have our back, which is really heartening in situations like this. But you're actually hearing from a lot of musical artists that are part of CCM. And I should mention, this lawsuit, so comprehensive. There's so many people being sued. It's like half of CCM. So, but you're hearing from these folks and they're saying, we're behind you. Am I right?
Yeah, so I think with contemporary Christian music, it's not just the artist that is part of it. It's also crew members and songwriters. There are so many people behind the scenes. And so there have been a lot who actually reached out to me privately off record after the initial Tate stories broke, just saying that they were supporting us. And they came back after this lawsuit came saying, we're praying for you, we back you, thank you for doing this.
Well, also joining us today is our lawyer, Christine Jones, who also serves on the board of the Roys Report. And Christine is a wonderful person to have your back in situations like this. And Christine, I'm just so glad that you can join us as well. So welcome, and looking forward to discussing this with you as well.
Thanks for having me, Julie. You and Jessica sure know how to gin up a story here, because you're not the only one whose phone was blowing up overnight. I think all of us were probably sleepless last night. It was enjoyable conversations.
Yeah, they were. Not the best of circumstances, even though, I feel like we're prepared for something like this. We're always aware that whenever we publish stories, this is a possibility. There's a lot of people who want to suppress what we are publishing, and we always know that we have to get all of our facts straight. And these stories, which I will say, you worked tremendously hard, Jessica. I give kudos to you first. You worked tremendously hard over, again, 2.5 years. But we pressed you on things. We made you go back and corroborate, or, you got a hole here, and the reason we do that is we know we know this sort of thing can happen. But you worked extraordinarily hard, as did Julia Dean, one of our editors, and I edited these pieces as well. And it was really, it was a team effort. And I'm going to say a little bit about what happened this weekend. But before I do, because this weekend, the timing of this whole thing is crazy. So I will get to that in just a second. But Jessica, as you were reporting this story, I know you faced an awful lot of sources telling you they were terrified. And I know, again, we have to be careful about what we say, but this threat of a lawsuit was persistent. And like, you didn't think you were going to get the story, I'm sure, a lot of times, because people are like, I'm terrified, right? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I walked some of this with you, so I remember this.
Well, I think there's multiple reasons this took 2.5 years, but a really significant one is because people were so scared to speak up. Even speaking to me off record, having a preliminary conversation, people would say to me that felt risky to them. And so I would say that this lawsuit, this kind of lawsuit, is precisely what people were afraid of.
Yeah, well, now we're living what their worst nightmare, right? It's getting sued. But I have found when truth is on your side, I've been sued once before, and it wasn't the end of the world. And in fact, at the end of that lawsuit, it was dismissed, and all of my legal fees were paid and then some, because, we had our facts straight, and we were able to prove in that case that it was a frivolous lawsuit. And the minute we threatened to do that, they said, how can we make it right? And so I am hopeful that we will have that same kind of situation, because we also have a wonderful lawyer in Christine. And for those who don't know Christine's background, she was the original general counsel and vice president at GoDaddy, and has served with some pretty impressive law firms as well. And we're just thrilled that you're on our side. So thank you, Christine. And I just want to ask you, as you looked at this lawsuit, it's like almost a 250-page lawsuit. You were also up reading late last night, trying to get your arms around this whole thing. I was up reading, just trying to understand it. I mean, I was honestly, I'm just like, wow, I'm having trouble understanding this conspiracy that I'm apparently a part of. But as you looked at that, what's kind of your gut feeling on, again, there's so many people named as defendants in this lawsuit, and it's really long.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're not going to litigate the merits of the claim or the complaint in the press. None of us are ever inclined to do that. I will say, typically, having been a litigator for many, many years, a few decades now, the longer the complaint, typically, the less well-founded the claims are, because if it takes you 250 pages to explain something, you're probably explaining too much. This particular complaint makes the two of you seem like incredibly astute organizers of the entire CCM industry. I'm very impressed, frankly, to be on your side here, because you apparently are controlling everything that's going on anywhere in Nashville. So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Wow. It was hard to pull that off.
It was very hard to pull that off, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The conspiracy piece of it is really perplexing, right? Because it pulls people from all sorts of different roles, to Jessica's point, right? You're talking about artists and promoters and nonprofits and journalists, and somehow all of these people tied together to ruin the business interests of the main plaintiff here. So, proving that kind of a conspiracy is even more difficult than the 2.5-year investigation that Jessica just went through to get people to tell this story in the first place. Because frankly, we don't see any facts that back up the conspiracy that's alleged. So, proving that is very difficult. I'll also say, we had been made aware that there were some grumblings around some of the claims that were in the article that you guys published. And we attributed all of those to sources and corroborated all of the claims that had been made. And yet they still came with this lawsuit. So I think in the end, what we're going to find out is that they had been planning this for a very long time. And it just turned out that maybe the articles that were published by the Roys Report were the linchpin that they needed to sew it all together somehow in this, conspiracy theory. I mean, look, we talk about conspiracy theories in politics. This actually is one.
For sure. Well, and I mentioned that the timing is I mean, you couldn't have planned this better in some ways. Just this past weekend, I was in Atlanta representing Jessica and the rest of the Roys Report because we were awarded the Religion News Story of the Year by the Religion News Association. Huge, huge kudos to you, Jessica, for winning that award. Phenomenal award to win. And we are, by our association with you and having the joy of, getting this to publication, receiving that as well. And so we're just extraordinarily grateful to the Religion News Association. But I was not thinking that we would get sued at the time that I went there and received this. And again, I wish you could have been there in person because you deserve to be there in person. But again, kind of a long trip from Australia and coming into the United States from another country can be a pretty tricky thing, especially in our current geopolitical situation. But I was able to be there along with Daniel Silliman, one of our reporters and editors. So that was wonderful. And also Ruth Malhotra, who is a former whistleblower for that exposed so much of Ravi Zacharias International Ministries and also one of our board members. She lives in Atlanta and she was able to join us as well. But we were thinking of you. But as I received this award, I mean, it's interesting. Christine, you got some nods in here too. We got video of it because Ruth is amazing. She can both shoot pictures and video at the same time, and she's really great at doing it. So I would like to play just the reception of this award, which, again, kind of uncanny that we were just about to get this lawsuit filed against us when we received this award. I'm not Jessica Morris. I'm Julie Roy's founder of the Roys Report, but I am so honored to accept this award on Jessica's behalf. And for those of you who are wondering who on earth or what on earth is the Roys Report, we are an independent news site that was launched about 7 years ago. So to be here today in this position with Religion News Story of the Year, I mean, it's just, I can't even tell you how affirming it is. When you are reporting, as we do, on abuse and corruption within the Christian community, and specifically the evangelical community primarily, it doesn't make you really popular. And you get called a lot of names and a lot of disparaging remarks about your work. And so to receive this from colleagues, other journalists, again, incredibly affirming, and it means a lot to us. So thank you so much. And Jessica, I wish she was here to accept this herself. She is based in Australia and couldn't make the journey here, but she is an absolutely delightful human being, a delightful Christian, and somebody who spent over 2 years investigating this story. And so for her, I had the joy of being able to, I think, did you call me and told me about this? And then I had the joy of calling her. She was asleep at the time because of the time difference, but to be able to call her and say, Jessica, you just won. And it was huge to her because, again, this was a labor of love for her. She didn't get a lot of money for it. It took her to places where I think other journalists had been afraid to go. And she did it with, threat of lawsuit and threat, you've received the cease and desist letters, and we got a letter just recently, actually, related to this story. And we're very grateful to have a board member who happens to be one of the, well, she was the original general counsel for GoDaddy, so we're very thrilled that she is working as a board member, but it's really great to have an attorney who does this out of love, and her name is actually mentioned in some comments that Jessica gave me to read for you. Thank you for this honor, Religion News Association. It is a privilege to accept Religion Story of the Year among such talented peers. I wish I could be here in person, but I'm grateful for my colleagues at the Roys Report can accept this on my behalf. In November 2022, I was asked to report on allegations of deep corruption in contemporary Christian music, particularly involving Michael Tait and the Newsboys organization. I was not the first person asked to do this. Today, I honor the people within Christian music who previously spoke up and the reporters who tried to write this story long before it reached me. This award is dedicated to the survivors and my sources, to those named publicly and the many who remain anonymous, particularly my original source. I honor your courage. You risked your livelihoods, your community, and in some cases your safety to speak with me. It has been the greatest honor of my life, stewarding your stories. There were days I heard about such evil that I lost hope for reform in the Christian music industry. In those times, my sources reminded me that good always overcomes evil. Their resilience drove me to approach the Roys Report so we could finally bring what was hidden into the light and hopefully create systemic change. Thank you, Julie Roys, Julia Dean, Daniel Silliman, Christine Jones, she's our attorney, and the board and team at the Roys Report for having the audacity to say yes to this investigation. You showed courage and integrity, refusing to bow to the status quo. I also honor Josiah Hesse for his incredible side-by-side reporting at The Guardian. It wasn't necessarily popular to report on the fall of a Christian music monolith. However, some media outlets found the courage to share our investigation early on, namely Mike Tom at CHVN Radio, Justin Sarachik at Rapzilla, Aidan Grant at 96.3 FM in Australia, Jesse T. Jackson at churchleaders.com, and Mike Cosper and Steve Taylor on the Bulletin podcast. Thanks to those in Christian music who also publicly and privately supported me. Lastly, it's imperative I thank my community in Geelong, Australia. To my family, mentors, and my church community, you remain steadfast in support and prayer, despite not knowing the details of my investigation. I believe this was finally published through the Roys Report because God was at work, a God of justice who suffers with the victim and refuses to let evil parade as good. He was my sustainer, my help, and my compass, as a Christ follower and as a journalist. It's an honor to accept this award in a room filled with incredible reporters and storytellers. We each tell sacred and important stories that change culture. May we never, ever give up. Thank you.
Thank you for reading that, Julie. I appreciate it.
That was beautiful. That's the first time I've heard that. That was lovely.
Yeah, wasn't it? It's such a great acceptance speech, and I just felt so proud to be able to do it for you. And it was kind of fun just playing it now and watching your face.
Yeah.
It was a really special moment. And I had so many people come up to me and even say that acceptance speech, how powerful that was. So, it really was beautifully written. And, but again, this story, Religion News Story of the Year. I want to mention, too, a lot of people think this is just like a Christian association. It's not at all. Religion News Association includes all the religion reporters, both secular, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist. We had the woman who won the Lifetime Achievement Award, I think, reported on atheism or something. So it's an interesting, group. Third place went to NBC.
Incredible.
Second place went to Moment Magazine. First place to the Roys Report. It was amazing. And it's funny, as I was reading this whole lawsuit, they repeatedly called us the tabloid. And I'm like, really? Because we just won first place in this. I don't think that would be awarded to a tabloid for a story that, again, we were recognized by our peers, not by anyone else. I mean, this is what journalists, the judges are all seasoned journalists who judge on this. So again, crazy timing that this would happen when it did. But you can tell the fact that you mentioned our lawyer. I mean, we knew the whole entire time. We knew the whole time that this was a possibility. And we also knew, Christine, that you had our back. So
yeah, I guess the complaint's going to have to be amended to add RNA now because they're clearly part of the conspiracy here.
Oh, right.
Of course. But I do think that this is a powerful moment for the Roys Report and for Julie as an individual journalist who's been plugging away at these stories for nearly a decade now. For a person like Jessica who takes a real risk, both personally and professionally, to track down a story for 2.5 years that you may or may not get published. I mean, this speaks a lot to the incredible integrity of the publication, but also just to the need for this kind of journalism. The fact that other outlets decided not to publish this because whatever, they were afraid of the repercussions. They don't have the wherewithal to defend a lawsuit like this. It really speaks well. And, I think it's important to make the distinction here, Julie, between your former claim of being a low-level blogger and a bottom feeder, and now you've risen to the level of a tabloid. Maybe once upon a time, at some point in the future, will actually be a real publication. But all of that aside, at a high level, the claims that are alleged against the organization and against you two individually are that you published and republished false and defamatory statements about this story that goes back, for at least a decade. Allegations of SA and drugging and a massive cover-up, right? While allegedly leaving out information that the plaintiffs say pointed to the opposite conclusion, pointed in the other direction. This is abjectly false. And we know, Julie, because you and I journeyed through this together and read some of the backup, listened to a lot of recordings, read a lot of first-party statements. We know that this is just simply not the case. And not only that, but to suggest that Jessica did this, that you did this, that the Roys Report did this with actual malice is, in some kind of coordinated effort to tie up this grand conspiracy of competitive challenge in the Nashville area, generally the Christian music area, is so false and so misleading that you can't even really take it seriously, except that it's now sitting in a court of competent jurisdiction in the Central District of Tennessee. And we're going to have to go defend it. And you know what? We're going to go defend it.
Yes, 100% we will. And I feel quite confident in how things will turn out because I know we did our homework and I know we worked really, really hard. Let me I'm going to read part of the lawsuit just so people can see it. It is out online, but I'm going to just put it up here and so people can see. This is what is being alleged against us. And again, we can't go into the particulars of it. We do not want to be accused of or to do any kind of litigating in the press or public at this point. But let me read this and we'll give you guys a chance to respond to it. It says, in this case, Wes Campbell and the 4 musicians comprising the Christian musical artists known as the Newsboys, their family, and the ministries they have dedicated their lives to build have been destroyed by the actions of the defendants, including their publication of defamatory articles fueled by competitors with anti-competitive motives. These actions were not isolated, but part of a coordinated scheme involving anti-competitive misconduct, misappropriation of confidential information, contractual breaches, and the dissemination of statements known to be false. And there appears to be no end in sight. The plaintiffs must thus turn to the courts to set forth the truth in a fair and impartial forum, as opposed to continually battling untrue rumors circulated with impunity by tabloids, and competitors. In brief summary of the facts set forth in this complaint, on June 19, 2025, the Roys Report, a tabloid that proclaims itself to be a watchdog over the Christian world, published a false and defamatory article concerning the plaintiffs, a copy of which is attached as Exhibit 1. They published a second, but by the way, that Exhibit 1, that first article, Michael Tait himself came out with a statement, correct?
I was going to make that point when you finished. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Just concerning that particular article, Jessica, fill us in. What did Michael say about that article?
So the first article that came out was on June 4, and that was the allegations that over a period of 10 years, Michael Tait had sexually assaulted 3 different men. Now, after that, on I believe it was June 10, Michael actually released on his social media what he termed my confession, where he admitted to struggling with cocaine addiction and to the unwanted sensual touching of men. And following that, we actually had the fallout where the Newsboys stopped being played on radio as much. They lost some of their bookings, and then came the Guardian article with more allegations. Then our June 19 article, which is what they address right here, saying that we're part of conspiracy.
Yeah, and interesting, the Guardian wasn't sued. But yes, that is exactly what happened. And so then we published, or they published, a second related defamatory article concerning the plaintiffs on February 12, 2026, a copy of which is attached as Exhibit 3. Together, they are called the articles. The defamatory articles were written by defendant Jessica Morris. The publisher and editor-in-chief of the Roys Report is Julie Roys, who approved their publication. The Roys Report, Julie Roys, and Morris are herein sometimes collectively called the defamation defendants. The articles concerned an event alleged to have happened almost 11 years earlier. The headline of the first defamatory article read as follows, and every word of it was false. And there's the headline. Woman accuses Michael Tait of drugging her and watching while she was raped, says Newsboys tour manager covered it up. Now, interestingly, it's interesting to me that this becomes it wasn't the first article that became sort of the linchpin of this lawsuit. It's this other article involving, again, this woman who says she was drugged and raped, and that Michael Tait was there in the room watching this whole thing. Now, I'm going to keep reading this because there is we'll see where they're kind of hanging their hat on this particular article where they say it's false. The article spread through the Christian community. It told a devastating but false story. Members of the Christian community reacted to the article as if the story was factual. But this complaint demonstrates that the story the article told was not true. Contemporaneous police reports, video evidence from the hotel itself, and the accuser's own prior statements tell a totally different story, one that was intentionally hidden from the public. The woman the defamation defendants identified in the articles was given the pseudonym Nicole. Although the headline of the article repeatedly proclaimed Nicole had been raped, Nicole told the police in Fargo, North Dakota, 3 short days after the events there, that her encounter with Matt Brewer in Fargo was, quote, consensual. In other words, there had been no rape. Further, the evidence conclusively showed the defamation defendants knew there had been no rape. They had the police report, yet printed it anyway. The question of why they reported this story when they knew it was false is, in part, what this suit will reveal. So something I want to note here is that our story actually uses the word consensual, and we cite the police report and note that the woman disagreed with the characterization in that police report when it said consensual. And in fact, the officer assigned to the case is clear in the report that consensual is his word. He wrote that the woman agreed with the hypothetical statement that he made about what would have been consensual. He does not say that she said it was consensual. Am I understanding that correctly, Jessica?
Absolutely. That is what Nicole told me, and that is what we wrote. So,
it's interesting to base an entire case off of one thing in a police report like that. I don't know if you can speak to that at all, Christine, but I mean, I don't see that we hid anything. We actually linked to the police report itself.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that gives the credibility to this particular section of the reporting is Jessica is a very honest reporter. She says the things that help and the things that don't help because they're the truth. And at the end of the day, that's what you're after, is the truth. Linking out to that police report was very helpful here. Although this may be the crux of the claim, they do say that literally every single word in the headline of that story is false. Well, I mean, surely not every single word is false, right? So you do have some built-in hyperbole here. You do have some exaggeration. Judges tend not to love that, right? The statements in a complaint are meant to be factual and sustainable or substantiatable. So I think that's probably something that we'll see focused on both from the Roy's report defendants and other defendants. But the thing about reporting, and I'm not a journalist, okay, I've just watched you do it a lot, is if at the end of the day you are collecting information and you're substantiating it and corroborating it and you publish it, it's true. And that's an absolute defense to most claims. So I feel pretty good about that.
Well, as I said, we don't want to litigate this in public, so we will keep our podcast short because I figured that's probably the best way we can keep from getting ourselves into trouble. But again, we're facing a pretty formidable opponent here in Wes Campbell. This is a man whose wealth, millions, I don't know, tens of millions, probably would be, he's talking about in this lawsuit about a deal where he lost a $50 million contract. So this is, the kind of money we don't have at the Roy's Report. Our budget, which you can go on our donation page, you can go and look. Our budget is under $1 million. If we had $50 million, we could fund this work for 50 years, but we don't. And in fact, when we encounter things like this, it takes resources. And so I just want to say, as we go to close here, we need your help. We need your support. We are up against, as it normally is, it feels like a David and Goliath type thing. And we've got our sling and our one smooth stone, and we're doing the best we can to tell the truth and just expose the evil that's out there. But there is a machine that is up against us. And I've talked an awful lot about this evangelical industrial complex. And I hate to say it, but it's just absolutely evil. And we're in the front lines right now. And so we can use your help, folks. Those of you who sent us those encouraging notes, again, thank you. We appreciate it. And we will try to keep you posted as developments happen with this lawsuit. But we do need your help. I know even just this month, we're a little bit behind in just our normal budget, but we'll also, we're obviously going to probably exceed our budget. So if you want to help us, this is the way you can do it. And if you want to see this kind of independent, Christian, integrous reporting happening, the way to do it is just by praying for us, absolutely praying for us. We covet those prayers, but also going to our donate page and helping us out that way. And what we have done is primarily grassroots, and we have not done big fundraising campaigns or anything like that. We don't hire big polished fundraisers. We just come to you because you're the people who care about the abuse and corruption and supporting the victims. And so if you'd like to help us, just go to Roy's Report, ROYS, report.com/donate. That's roysreport.com/donate. And you can give us a gift that way to help support us. Please continue praying for us. Sign up for our newsletter so that you can be on top of all the developments, and pray for Christine as she battles for us in this legal arena, and for Jessica, who took a big risk to do this, report this story. We're so proud of you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Just really did a wonderful job. But thank you for those of you who are listening. We really appreciate your support, and God bless you.